knock came through the wind like it did not belong to it. Not carried. Not softened. Just 3 hard strikes against the wood. Clara Whitmore froze with the bank notice still in her hand. 30 days. The paper trembled once before she pressed it flat against the table. Outside, the January wind dragged across Willow Creek Ranch, tearing loose shingles and rattling the barn like something trying to get in. The land had been fighting her for months. Now even the house sounded tired. Another knock. Same force, same patience. Whoever stood out there was not leaving. Clara moved to the door slow, her boots quiet against the floor. She slid the rifle up from where it leaned by the frame, resting it along her forearm the way James had taught her. Open just enough to see. Never more. She cracked the door. Cold air pushed in first. Sharp, clean, empty. Then she saw him. Tall. Broad shoulders wrapped in a coat that had seen too many winters. And in his arms, a child. The girl's face was pressed against his shoulder, pale against rough wool. Her breath came shallow, barely lifting the fabric. Behind him stood a boy, thin, still, watching her boots instead of her eyes. "Ma'am," the man said, voice low, steady. "I won't take more of your time than I need to." His breath fogged between them. "My name's Nathan Cole. This is my daughter, Lily. My boy, Henry." The girl stirred. A weak sound slipped out. Nathan shifted her closer without thinking. "We've been on the road since before sunup," he said. "The little one needs warmth, and if you have milk, I'd be obliged." Clara did not answer. Not yet. Her eyes moved over him, coat worn thin at the seams, hands cracked, no shaking, no desperation in his stance. Just waiting. "You carrying anything?" she asked. "Knife on my belt, rifle in the wagon." "Where's the wagon?" "Down your drive. 1 horse." She looked past him. A dark shape near the fence line. Still as stone, she opened the door wider. "Bring them in." The warmth hit them slow. Henry stepped first, careful, like he had learned not to touch what wasn't his. Nathan followed, ducking slightly under the frame, keeping Lily close. Clara shut the door behind them and slid the bolt. The house went quiet. She poured broth without asking, handed it to the boy. Henry took it with both hands. "Thank you, ma'am." His voice barely carried. Clara turned to the girl. Cold fingers. Not frozen, but close enough that she did not wait. She crossed to the bedroom, pulled a quilt from the bed, came back and wrapped it around the child tight. "She been like this long?" she asked. Nathan sat slowly, easing himself into the chair like his body argued with it. "Fever this morning. Broke some. Came back." Clara nodded once. She moved to the stove, poured fresh milk, warmed it, tested it against her wrist. Then handed it over. Nathan lifted the cup carefully. "Easy now," he murmured. The girl drank, slow at first, then faster. The room stayed silent, except for the fire and the small swallow of milk. When the cup emptied, Nathan lowered it like it carried weight. "Thank you," he said. Not quick, not casual. Clara sat across from him. "Where you headed?" "Wherever there's work." "What kind?" "Anything that keeps hands busy and food steady." A pause. Then quieter. "I had land once." His eyes shifted for half a second. "Lost it last winter." Clara did not look away. "And your wife?" she asked. Nathan's jaw tightened just enough to notice. "September. No more." Clara leaned back slightly. "You know irrigation?" That made him look at her fully. "Some. Mine's failing." She folded her arms. "2 men told me to replace the whole system. $300. Nathan shook his head once. "Did they walk it?" They looked at it. "That's not the same." He set the empty cup down. "Old ditch systems don't fail all at once," he said. "They lose water, bit by bit. Wrong slope, bad soil, poor packing." Clara watched him now. Really watched. "You fix the grade," he continued. "Slow the flow where it runs too fast. Seal the weak ground with clay. You get most of that water back. How much? Enough to change what your pasture looks like come spring. Silence stretched between them. Henry kept drinking his broth like it might disappear. Clara glanced at him, then back at Nathan. How long? A few weeks, if the ground lets us. You sure? Nathan shook his head. No. Then he met her eyes. But I'm close. Clara stood. There's a room by the barn, she said. Stove works. Mostly. She grabbed her coat. You stay tonight. Nathan rose with her. I appreciate. Don't. She cut in. Not yet. She opened the door again. Tomorrow you walk my land. Morning came without wind. Morning came without wind. The kind of stillness that felt temporary. Clara saw him before he saw her. Nathan moved along the irrigation line with a stick, pressing into the ground, stopping, crouching, studying like he was reading something written beneath the surface. Henry followed behind him, step for step, watching everything. Clara stood at the window a moment longer than she meant to. Then she poured coffee, walked out. Nathan straightened when he heard her. Morning. How long you been out here? Since light. He took the cup, hands wrapped around it like it mattered. Clara nodded toward the ditch. Well? Nathan crouched again. Here, he said. He tapped the ground. Grade drops too fast. Water runs through before it splits. He stood, pointed further down. Your south pasture ain't dry because there's no water. He looked at her. It's dry because the water never stays long enough to matter. Clara stepped closer, looked. Same ground she had walked for 2 years. But now, she saw it. Just enough. And this? She asked. Nathan moved east, kneeling again. Soil changes here. Sandier. Water sinks before it travels. He stood. Fix those 2 things. You change everything downstream. Clara exhaled slowly. If you're right. He nodded once. We start today. A voice cut across the yard. Mrs. Whitmore. Clara turned. Victor Harlan sat tall on his horse at the edge of the property. Watching. Always watching. I heard about your situation, he said. His gaze slid past her, landed on Nathan. Seems you've hired help. Seems I have, Clara replied. Harlan smiled. Thin. I'll make you an offer again, he said. 1,200. Clean. Quick. Clara didn't move. I'm not selling. Not even now? She stepped forward. I've got work being done. Harlan's eyes narrowed just enough. That's so. He looked at Nathan again. Longer this time. Hope you know what you're doing. Then he turned his horse. Rode off without waiting for an answer. The dust hadn't even settled when Clara felt it. Something shifting. Not on the land, but around it. Nathan stepped beside her. He'll be back, he said quietly. Clara nodded. I know. She looked out across the ranch, then down at the ditch, then back at Nathan. Then we don't waste time. Nathan lifted the tool from the ground. Set it against his shoulder. Henry moved to the next section without being told. And somewhere between the frozen soil and the quiet morning, something began to change. Not fast, not loud, but enough that if you stood still long enough, you could feel it moving. And Clara did not realize it yet, but the man who had come asking for milk had already started saving everything she was about to lose. The first shovel strike sounded louder than it should have. Not because of the ground, because of how quiet everything else was. Nathan drove the blade into the frozen edge of the channel, leaned his weight into it, and broke the crust in a clean line. The sound carried across the pasture, sharp and final. Clara stood a few steps back, arms folded tight against the cold. Watching. Not just the work. Him. He didn't rush. Didn't waste motion. Each cut had a reason. Each step followed something already decided in his head. Henry, Nathan said without looking up. Bring that clay over here. The boy moved quick. Too quick for the cold. He nearly slipped, caught himself, then kept going like it hadn't happened. Nathan didn't correct him. Just shifted slightly, making space. Teaching without stopping. Clara noticed that. She noticed everything now. The way Henry matched his pace. The way Nathan spoke low, never sharp. The way the work kept moving even when nobody said a word. By midday, the first section was done. Water moved. Not much, but enough. It reached a split it hadn't reached in months. Clara stepped closer, watched it hesitate, then divide. One stream bending toward the south pasture. She didn't speak, didn't trust her voice yet. Nathan wiped his hands against his coat. "That's just the start," he said. Clara nodded once. "That's enough for today?" Nathan shook his head. "No." He looked out over the rest of the ditch. "Not if we want it to matter." The cold settled deeper by late afternoon, the kind that stiffens your fingers before you realize it. Henry's hands slowed first. Clara saw it, the way he flexed them when he thought no one noticed. She walked over without a word, pulled a pair of old gloves from her coat, held them out. Henry hesitated, looked at Nathan. Nathan nodded. Henry took them. "Thank you." Clara gave a small nod. "Keep working," but her eyes stayed on him a moment longer, then moved back to Nathan. He had already returned to the ditch, like stopping wasn't part of him. They worked until the light thinned, until the land turned gray, until the water, slow but steady, began reaching places it hadn't touched in months. Nathan finally straightened. "That's enough." Clara exhaled. Didn't realize she'd been holding it. They walked back toward the barn together. Not close, not distant. Just the same direction. That night, the wind came back. Harder. It pushed against the walls like it wanted inside. Clara sat at the table, ledger open. Numbers didn't change. Didn't care how hard she worked. Didn't care who showed up at her door. 30 days stayed 30 days. $12 stayed $12. She ran her thumb along the edge of the page, then stopped. Listened. Boots. Outside. Not one set. More. She stood slowly, reached for the rifle again, moved to the window. 3 men. At the fence line, lantern light shifting between them, not working, standing, watching. Her jaw tightened. She didn't open the door, didn't call out. Just stood there. Let them see the shadow of her through the glass. After a long moment, they turned, walked back into the dark. Clara stayed at the window long after they were gone. The wind howled louder, but it wasn't the wind she was listening to anymore. Morning came heavy, gray clouds sitting low over the land. Nathan was already outside, working the next section. Like the night hadn't happened. Clara stepped out. "You see them?" she asked. Nathan didn't stop digging. "Yeah. You know who they were?" He drove the shovel down again. "Don't need to." He glanced toward the fence line. "Men don't stand like that unless they're sent." Clara crossed her arms. "He's moving faster." Nathan nodded. "Means we should too." By the end of the week, the change was clear. Not everywhere, but enough. Water reached deeper into the pasture. Grass, thin, weak, but alive, began to show through patches where it hadn't in months. Clara stood at the edge of the south field, watching the cattle. They moved different. Slow, but not struggling. Nathan walked up beside her. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. Clara kept her eyes on the field. "If this holds, it will," he said. She looked at him then. Really looked. "You don't hesitate much." Nathan shrugged slightly. Hesitation wastes daylight. A small pause. Then, and sometimes, it costs more than that. Clara studied his face. There was something there. Something he didn't say. She didn't ask. Not yet. That afternoon, Henry came running from the barn, faster than Clara had seen him move. "Pa!" Nathan turned instantly. Henry stopped short, breath tight. The horse. That was all he needed. Nathan moved. Clara followed. They reached the barn together. Inside, one of the mares was down. Leg twisted wrong. Breathing hard. fighting the ground. Clara dropped to her knees without thinking. "Hold her steady," she said. Nathan was already there. Hands firm. Voice low. "Easy. Easy. Easy." The animal's breathing slowed just enough. Clara worked. Careful. Precise. The leg shifted. The mare kicked once. Hard. Nathan didn't flinch. Didn't let go. "Almost," Clara said. Her hands moved again. Then, the leg slid back into place. The mare stilled. Breathing heavy. Alive. Clara leaned back. Hands shaking now. Not from fear. From the release. Nathan exhaled slow. Henry stood in the doorway, watching like he hadn't blinked once. Clara wiped her hands against her dress. "You did good," Nathan said to the boy. Henry nodded, but his eyes stayed on the horse. That night, the barn stayed warmer. Not from the stove, from something else. Clara leaned against the stall door, watching the mare stand again, shaky but steady. Nathan stood beside her, close enough to hear, not touching. "She'll make it," Clara said. Nathan nodded. "You knew what to do." "So did you." A small silence. Then, "You've done that before," he said. Clara gave a short breath. "Had to." She looked at the horse. "Out here, you learn or you lose." Nathan glanced at her. "You don't lose much." Clara didn't answer, but her hand tightened slightly on the wood. Later, when the lamps were low, Clara sat alone again, the ledger open. But she wasn't looking at it. She was thinking about the fence, the men, the timing. Something wasn't right. Not just pressure. Planning. Her eyes moved to the window. Dark outside. But she knew. He was still there. Somewhere. Watching. Waiting. And for the first time since James died, Clara didn't feel alone on that land. Not entirely. But something else came with that thought. Something quieter. More dangerous. Because if this man stayed, if he became part of this place, then losing the ranch wouldn't be the only thing she had to lose anymore. The wind hit the house again. Harder this time. And somewhere beyond the fence line, a rider stopped. Didn't move. Just sat there in the dark, watching Willow Creek Ranch like it already belonged to him. The rider did not move. Not when the wind shifted. Not when the barn door creaked. Just a shape in the dark beyond the fence line. Waiting. Clara stood inside the doorway, one hand on the frame, the other resting near the rifle. Nathan stepped beside her. Didn't ask. Didn't speak. He just looked. The figure turned slightly. Enough to show it was a man. Then, he nudged his horse. Slow. Deliberate. And rode off into the night. Clara didn't relax. Not even after the sound of hooves disappeared. "That's the second time," she said. Nathan nodded once. "He wants you to know he's there." Clara's jaw tightened. "I already do." Morning came with a different kind of silence. Not empty. Held. Like the land itself was waiting. Nathan was at the ditch again. But slower today. Watching the water. Testing it. Measuring something only he understood. Clara walked out to him. "What's wrong?" Nathan didn't answer right away. He stepped along the channel. Stopped. Kicked lightly at the ground. Then crouched. His fingers pressed into the soil. Pulled it up. Let it fall. "Too much," he said. "Too much what?" "Water staying where it shouldn't." Clara's eyes narrowed. "That's not what we fixed." "No," Nathan said. "It isn't." He stood. Looked toward the north pasture. Something's holding it back. Clara followed his gaze. The fence line. The boundary. Where Harlan's land touched hers. Her chest tightened. "Show me." They rode out together. Henry stayed behind with the animals. The sky stayed low. Clouds dragging close enough to feel. They reached the boundary in less than 20 minutes. Nathan dismounted first. Walked straight to the drainage cut. Stopped. Didn't move for a full second. Then, he crouched. Started digging with his hands. Clara stepped closer. Saw it. Rock. Packed tight. Fresh. Soil forced in between it, blocking the channel completely. Her breath came in sharp. He did it. Nathan didn't look up. Yeah. Clara turned, looked across the fence. Empty land. No movement. But she knew. He's trying to flood us. Nathan stood slowly, brushed his hands off. If that holds when the snow melts, it'll drown the pasture. He nodded. Your best one. Clara stared at it. At the damage. At the intent behind it. Not careless. Not accidental. Planned. She turned back toward the ranch. I'm going to town. Nathan's voice came steady. For what? For proof. She swung up onto the horse. What he did, this isn't just land trouble. It's law. Nathan grabbed the reins before she could move. Not rough, but firm. Clara. She looked down at him. I know that look, he said. You ride in there angry. You give him what he wants. Her grip tightened. I'm not going in angry. He held her eyes. Then go in ready. A pause. The wind shifted between them. Clara exhaled slow, then nodded. Document it, she said. Everything. Nathan stepped back. I will. Town felt different that day. Not busier. Tighter. Clara walked straight into the survey office. Didn't wait. Didn't hesitate. The old surveyor looked up from his desk. Clara, I need you to come out, she said. He studied her face. Didn't ask why. Just nodded. By afternoon, they stood at the blocked channel. The old man crouched. Studied the rock. The packed soil. The line of it. Deliberate. He stood slowly. That's interference. Clara didn't move. Legal? Yes. Provable. He nodded again. I'll file it. Clara's shoulders lowered just slightly. Not relief, but something close to it. Back at the ranch, Nathan had already started clearing the blockage. Not removing it completely. Just enough to show the original flow. To prove what had been changed. Henry worked beside him. Silent. Focused. Clara watched them from the rise. The way they moved. The way they worked together. Like they had been doing it longer than they had. Something shifted in her chest. She didn't name it. Didn't need to. That night, they sat at the table again. The ledger open. But this time, there were more numbers. Better numbers. Clara ran her finger down the page. Cattle weights up. Nathan nodded. Water's reaching them. She glanced up. You were right. Nathan gave a small shrug. Wasn't guessing. A pause. Then, the bank won't care about that alone. Clara nodded. I know. She closed the book. They want certainty. Nathan leaned forward slightly. Then we give it to them. Clara watched him. How? He tapped the ledger. You show them this isn't a dying ranch. His eyes met hers. You show them it's already turning. She held his gaze. And if they don't listen, Nathan didn't answer right away. The fire cracked behind him. Then, they will. Something in the way he said it. Not loud, not forceful, just certain. Made Clara believe it, even if she didn't know why. Outside, a horse moved in the dark. Slow, careful, stopping near the fence. Again, watching. But this time, Nathan saw it first. He stepped out onto the porch. Didn't call out. Didn't reach for a weapon. Just stood there. The figure shifted, then rode off. Faster this time. Nathan stayed where he was, until the sound was gone. Clara stepped beside him. He's pushing. Nathan nodded. Means he's worried. Clara crossed her arms. Good. A long silence followed. The kind that wasn't empty. The kind that builds. Nathan glanced at her. You still got time. Not much. Enough. She looked out across the land. The pasture. The barn. The work they had done. then back at him. "You planning to stay?" she asked. Nathan didn't answer right away. His eyes moved over the ranch. Then, "To see it through." Clara nodded once. That was enough. Later that night, the wind dropped. Completely. No sound. No movement. Just stillness. Clara woke without knowing why. Sat up slowly. Listened. Nothing. Then, a sound. Faint. From the barn. She moved fast. Pulled on her coat. Grabbed the rifle. Stepped outside. Cold hit hard. Sharp. Clean. She reached the barn door. Pushed it open. Inside. Something moved. Not the animals. Something else. A shadow slipped between the stalls. Clara raised the rifle. Stop. The figure froze. Then, bolted. Clara fired. The shot cracked through the barn. Loud. Violent. The figure stumbled, then disappeared out the back. Nathan rushed in seconds later. What happened? Someone was inside. He moved to the back door. Looked out. Nothing. Gone. He turned back. The animals were restless. Pacing. Breathing hard. Henry stood in the corner. Eyes wide. Nathan crouched beside him. "You all right?" Henry nodded, but didn't speak. Clara lowered the rifle slowly, her hands steady, her breath not. "They're not waiting anymore," she said. Nathan stood. His eyes dark now, focused. No. He glanced toward the broken latch on the back door, then back at her. "They're coming closer." Clara tightened her grip on the rifle. "Then let them." Somewhere beyond the ranch, a man rode hard through the night. Didn't slow, didn't look back, until he reached the edge of a larger property, lights burning in the distance. He pulled his horse to a stop, turned once, looked back toward Willow Creek, then rode on. And by morning, Victor Harland already knew everything. The barn still smelled like gunpowder when morning came. Sharp, burned. Clara stood in the doorway, rifle resting against her shoulder, eyes scanning the ground outside. Tracks. Fresh. One man. In, out, fast. Nathan crouched beside them, ran his fingers along the edge of a print. "Boot heels worn on the right," he said. Clara didn't look at him. "Can you follow it?" Nathan stood, shook his head once. He wanted to be seen coming in. A pause. Not leaving. Clara exhaled slow. "Message." Nathan nodded. "Yeah." Henry didn't leave the barn that morning. He stayed close to the mare's stall, hands resting on the wood. Like the animal breathing steady beside him was enough to keep everything else from breaking. Nathan stepped over. "Come on," he said quietly. Henry didn't move. Nathan waited. Didn't push. After a long moment, Henry nodded. Followed him out. Clara was already saddling the horse. Movements quick. Tight. Nathan walked up. "You going to town?" "Yes." "For what?" Clara tightened the strap harder than she needed to. "For everything." Nathan watched her. "You're not just filing papers today." She met his eyes. "No." A beat. Then, "I'm ending it." Billings felt colder than the ranch. Not in the air. In the way people looked. Clara walked straight to the bank. Didn't stop. Didn't hesitate. Nathan followed half a step behind. The teller saw them coming. Stiffened. "Mrs. Whitmore, I need Pewitt." Her voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. The door behind the desk opened before the teller could answer. Elias Pewitt stepped out. Eyes already narrowed. "Mrs. Whitmore." Clara walked past him into the office. Set the satchel down. Pulled the papers out one by one. Survey report. Drainage interference. Ledger. Weights. Signed foreman agreement. She laid them across his desk. Neat. Precise. Final. "You're going to read these," she said. Pewitt didn't sit. Didn't touch the papers. "I've already reviewed your situation." "No," Clara cut in. "You reviewed what you were told." A pause. Then she leaned forward slightly. This is what's actually happening. Pwitt hesitated, then picked up the first document. His eyes moved. Slow. Careful. The room stayed quiet except for the turning of pages. Nathan stood still behind her, not speaking, just watching. Pwitt set the last paper down. His jaw tightened. This changes things. Clara didn't move. Yes. A longer silence. Then, "And the lien?" she asked. Pwitt's eyes shifted. "Filed legally. Filed strategically," Nathan said. Pwitt looked at him. Cold now. Nathan didn't blink. "If that lien holds," Nathan continued, "you don't need an auction." Pwitt said nothing. Clara stepped closer. "James never took that credit." Her voice stayed level. "I have every record to prove it." Pwitt's fingers tapped once against the desk. "You'd have to challenge it in court." "I will." Another pause. Then Clara reached into the satchel again. Pulled out one more paper. Set it down. "What's that?" Pwitt asked. "Extension request." His eyes narrowed. "You already?" "This one's different." He picked it up. "Read." Slow. His expression shifted. "Not much, but enough. You're asking for 90 days. I'm telling you what I need. And if I refuse..." Clara held his gaze. "You won't." Silence filled the room. Heavy. Unmoving. Then, Nathan stepped forward just slightly. Not enough to interrupt. Just enough to be seen. Pwitt noticed. His eyes flicked between them. Something clicked. He reached for the pen. Signed. They stepped back out into the cold. Clara didn't stop walking. Didn't slow. Nathan caught up beside her. "You didn't give him a choice." Clara kept her eyes ahead. "I gave him the truth." A pause. And the right moment to listen to it. Boots sounded behind them. Slow. Measured. Clara didn't turn. She didn't need to. Victor Harland came into view at her side. Hat low. Smile thin. "Mrs. Whitmore." She stopped then. Turned. "What do you want, Mr. Harland?" He glanced at Nathan, then back to her. "I hear your meeting went well." Clara said nothing. Harland stepped closer. "Shame about that lien," he said. "Things get messy when debts aren't settled." Nathan moved slightly. Closer. Harland noticed. His smile didn't change. "Careful who you bring onto your land," he said quietly. "Strangers have a way of leaving trouble behind." Clara stepped forward, closed the space between them. "You're done." Harland's eyes sharpened. "Am I?" "You blocked my drainage." She held his gaze. "I've got it documented." A pause. Filed. Something flickered in his expression. Gone just as fast. "Paper doesn't always win." Clara didn't blink. "It does when it's right." Silence. The kind that draws lines. Harland looked at her a long moment. Then at Nathan. Then, he stepped back. Tipped his hat slightly. "We'll see." He turned. Walked away. Didn't look back. The ride home felt different. Not lighter. But clearer. Henry sat between them. Quiet. Listening. The ranch came into view as the sun dropped low. Light stretched long across the pasture. The water line glimmered where it ran. Stronger now. Steady. Clara slowed the horse near the gate. Looked out across everything. The barn. The fields. The work. Nathan stepped down. Opened the gate. She watched him. A long moment. Then, "You didn't have to stay," she said. Nathan leaned on the gate. "I know. You still might leave." A small pause. "After this." Nathan looked out across the land, then back at her. "Maybe." Clara held his gaze. Something unspoken passed between them. Not rushed. Not forced. Just there. Real. Henry hopped down from the wagon. Ran ahead toward the barn. Calling for the mare. The sound carried across the yard. Alive. Clara listened to it. Then looked back at Nathan. "You said you'd see it through." "I will." Another pause. The wind moved softly through the grass. No bite. No fight. Just movement. Clara turned the horse toward the house. "Then we start tomorrow," she said. Nathan nodded. "Yeah." That night, the ranch felt different. Not quiet. Not tense. Balanced. Like something had shifted into place. Clara stood at the window, watching the land. No riders. No shadows. Just open ground. Nathan stepped up beside her. "Close. Not touching. You'll keep it," he said. Clara didn't answer right away. Her eyes stayed on the pasture. Then, "I will." She turned slightly. Looked at him. "And you?" Nathan met her gaze. For once, no distance, no hesitation. "I told you," he said quietly. "I'm not going anywhere." Clara held that for a second, then nodded. Slow, certain. Outside, the water kept moving. Through the channels, across the land, toward something better. And for the first time since the knock at her door, Clara Whitmore didn't feel like she was fighting to hold on. She felt like she was building something, something worth keeping, something that wasn't going to be taken from her. Not this time.